Hi, I'm Andrew from the Santa Barbara Middle School Teen Press, and I'm here with
Azim Khamisa.
So, tell us about your film.
Well, the genesis of my story is very tragic. 16 years ago, my only son, he was a student at San Diego State University and worked Fridays and Saturdays as a pizza delivery man. It was a college job. And he was lured to a bogus address by a youth gang. There were 4 of them. 3 of them were 14-year-old, and the leader of the gang was an 18-year-old who handed a 9mm handgun to a 14-year-old. And as my son was trying to leave the scene of the crime, the leader gave the order, "Bust him bones," and he fired 1 round, but it was fatal. And my son died drowning in his own blood at the age of 20 over a lousy pizza. So needless to say, it brought my life to a crashing halt. I have a beautiful daughter, but he was my only son. And I went through all the emotions you would expect a parent to go through: overwhelming grief, despair. I was suicidal at one point. But since he was killed by a youth gang, I got into looking at the problems of youth gangs, which, as you know, we are plenty. It's the second biggest reason we lose young souls, is gun violence. How old are you?
12.
12. So the killer was 14, so he was in 7th or 8th grade. Anyway, so I took a different response to the tragedy. What I saw here, that there were victims at both ends of the gun. I saw my son was a victim of the 14-year-old. I saw the 14-year-old a victim of our society. So who's the enemy here? Is it the 14-year-old, or is it the societal forces that forced a young man like you, at the age of 11, African-American young man, to join a gang, and then he killed my son at the age of 14 to prove himself to the gang? So I thought I must do something about it. So I started a foundation which is named after my son. It's called the Tariq Khamisa Foundation, and the website is tkf.org, tkf.org. I forgave my son's killer, and I reached out to the guardian and grandfather of my son's killer. We work together now in schools, and we work primarily in middle schools. And we introduced this man's grandson, killed this man's son, and here they are together in the spirit of forgiveness and compassion. So we're teaching the principles of nonviolence. And with him, and I started the foundation with only $8,000 in my home office. Today we have over 50-some employees. We've reached 8 million kids. Maybe we'll come to Santa Barbara to speak at your school. And we're teaching forgiveness instead of revenge, because revenge is the precursor of every new act of violence. So it's a story about forgiveness, it's a story about non-violence, because I truly believe that violence is a learned behavior, because no kid was born violent. I also believe non-violence can be a learned behavior. And then when my son's killer was 19, I went to visit him in prison. He's 31 now, and I'm trying to get him out early so he can join us. He's doing well, he's passed his GED, and he's now becoming a child psychologist. He's no longer about gang, guns, and violence. I look forward to the day when he can join us, because that will be very powerful. Yeah. We've saved his life, but think about how many more kids he will save when he is working in the foundation with his grandfather and me.
What do you want your audience to take away from this film?
I want them to understand that from conflict you can create unity. Mostly what happens in the US is conflict creates more conflict. It doesn't have to be this way. I would never have met the grandfather had his grandson not killed my son. And we are brothers. We've been together for 16 years. I met his family, and he's met my family. I also want to get the message across that revenge is a precursor of every new act of violence. But forgiveness kind of aces revenge, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It breaks that cycle. That we all need to learn how to forgive, because unless we do, we won't have a species left. You know, you kill one of mine, I kill one of yours. Pretty soon nobody's standing up. That we must learn to forgive so that we can thrive and survive as a human species.
One of our sayings at our school is "Go with gratitude." What is there anyone you would like to thank for the making of your film?
Yes, absolutely. First, I want to thank my son, because I would not be doing this work if I had not lost him, because he put me in this work. I used to be an investment banker. And of course, there are so many people that I want to thank, because gratitude is a very high vibratory emotion. I meditate 2 hours a day. I always finish my meditation with gratitude, and I try and stay there the whole day. The working group that organized it, My Hero, which is the organization here, and the producers that put this film together, I have a lot of gratitude for it, and I'm hoping it will touch many, many more lives, especially lives of kids your age and younger, and in middle schools.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. That's why we're here, because every one of you in this room is a very important person. But how many of you here have lost a family member as a result of violence? And put your hand up. So you know about this pain. What would you do? How many of you here would want revenge if your brother or your sister was killed? Yeah? I get it. Teach this work today that forgiveness is something you do for yourself. It is healthy to forgive. Now, the magic about it is that through forgiveness, I've been able to heal.